Hey, and we're back. We Talk Weeklies after the talk on WPPM Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We Talk Weeklies after the talk with your boy Charles Gregory and the beautiful.
Classy Lady Sparkle.
And the beautiful.
Lady Esther.
We got a done Lady Esther. Do that one more again. Let me see. One more again.
I can hear me.
There
I
you
can
go.
hear me
There you,
now.
now you sound good.
It
There
was
you-
low.
there was
Lady
low.
Esther out here, y'all.
That's right. She's definitely in the building. And so we got a dynamic show for you today. I got one of my favorite people in the studio today, man. And so I'm excited about that. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We have another guest coming in. And we got some good news and bad news. We got the sizzle. We got a jam-packed show. We actually had the opportunity to stop by one of those little rallies. I won't call them little, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little later, right? And so I'm super excited about today. But, before I do anything, I got to ask you, ladies, how was your day?
My day was pretty good.
Okay.
I got some work done around the house. I told you I'm starting my little garden. So my cucumbers and my tomatoes is starting to sprout up real big.
I'm
And
jealous.
yes, they're gonna be scrumptious. So I'll bring some in. And then I also started a hydroponic garden. The
Oh,
little-
you did. You tell
the
everybody
water.
what that is, because
Basically, you're growing a garden from water opposed to dirt. So, and it's indoors, so you don't really have to have it. All the rain we got, some of it was too much for my garden because it was like overflowing it. So, but the one in hydroponics is inside.
You
So,
have a huge bag. I told you should have did
Yeah.
that long years ago.
yeah, I got about an acre of land.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited, and y'all gonna benefit from it because I'll bring some in. So I had a good day.
You always doing something new.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like you when I grow up.
Well, you listen.
I don't do
I'm
nothing
so
new.
glad to
When's
see
the last,
you.
When's the first time you did something? Last time you did something for the first time, right?
Yeah, how about that, right? What about you, lady? Is that you in the building? How?
Lady Esther, I ain't been here in a while.
I wasn't
I know.
as productive as Sparkle, but I had a.
Oh,
I
this
had
the
a good
first
day.
show she's
This
back
is
since
Yes,
she's been
I'm
married.
waiting for her to
Yes,
say it.
yes.
And she ain't
Oh,
say
yeah,
it.
I'm just saying,
Talking about
yeah.
she ain't
Y'all
been
supposed, to,
productive.
y'all supposed to welcome me back.
Yes.
No.
She's an honest woman now.
Yeah, my
Congrats.
first day back.
Wait. Hold on. Wait. We can welcome her back.
I've
She
been
was
out like
late
a month.
today. She was late. We know we talking.
How long?
Oh, go ahead.
How many
then.
weeks I haven't been here?
No doubt.
I know I miss y'all.
No doubt.
I just want to say we talked about it before. Lady S. Dot's wedding was something out of a storybook. It was like Bridget's. It was
Oh my goodness.
it was amazing. It should have been in like one of the top magazines. it everything from the details on the table to the food, everything was amazing.
Thank
you
you.
did
Thank
an
you.
amazing
Thank you so
job.
much for that.
You did an
Yeah,
amazing
I
job.
heard that more than once, so I'm
Yeah.
flattered. I am because
Yes.
it was a lot of work that
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting. So I'm more importantly, I'm glad everybody
It was
had
a
good
lot
time.
of work. It was a lot of work. It was a lot.
Oh,
of
he
work.
was over. He was talking about the photo booth. Yeah.
It was a lot of work.
I know everybody has been raving about Charles also, so thank you, Charles, for making my special day even more fabulous. Appreciate you.
For sure.
And what's up with you, C? was your
Busy.
day?
Yeah, it was busy. I came. I went to the rally today, so that was pretty interesting. I'm trying my best not to be partial to any side, right? Because we nonpartisan here, right? And so,
Yeah.
I took it for what it was worth, right? A lot of people were excited. A lot of people are happy about the possibility of making history once again. But yeah, it was. We'll see. A lot of people are ready, willing, and able. The thing that I want everyone to take back is, if you don't do anything else, just vote. Perform your civic duty. Don't worry about what anyone is telling you. Vote over here, vote over there. This person is ugly. This person is horrible. This person is a criminal. This person isn't, right? Don't worry about any of that. Do your own research. Don't let anyone push you on any side. Don't worry about it. You do your own research and make a judgment based on what you believe fits.
What if
your
they don't
direction.
like either candidate?
Then I would say write yourself in. How about that? Write yourself in.
Okay.
Vote green or vote something, right? But as long as you vote, that's my thing. Vote. Because I was spoken to a young gentleman earlier today, and he felt really discouraged, right? And he felt that this is something that I always talk about. A lot of people feel like they're being bullied, right? Especially if you're in a community where it's a lot of blue, If you choose or say that you don't know or don't want to vote blue, you get a lot of finger wagging, right? And I get it. However, for a first-time voter, for someone who's thinking about voting who never voted before, that's a little scary for them. And they get a little disgruntled and they like, well, I don't know. I don't need to vote then. I don't know. So I would rather them kind of do their own due diligence and stop the finger wagging. Stop, the bullying. That's a form of bullying. Tell them to go do their research, and based on the research, then tell them to go vote. It's just that simple. Because we can't tell anyone on the channel, right? We can't play favors, right? And so what we can do is just say perform your civic duty and learn something. Do your research and have fun in doing it. That's all we can say, right? There you go.
That's it.
There you go. So why don't we go into someone with whom it's about that time, someone with whom I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Why don't you let us know who do we have today?
Today we have Deborah B. Hamilton, also known as Dr. Deb, coined by our very own Charles Gregory. Deborah is the CEO and founder of Nurture Your Love LLC with over 40 years of experience as a love coach.
It's a long time.
Yeah, she helps married women and couples build deeper connections by fostering self-love, which she believes is the key to a fulfilling and harmonious marriage. Y'all already know what to do. Let's give a warm We Talk Weekly welcome to Dr. Deb Hamilton.
How are you?
She giggles at the doctor.
I know.
I love it.
I guess I'm stuck with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you stuck with it.
He gave it to you.
Hey, it's all good. Embrace it. You know what you're talking about.
This must be a
I
gift
love
for
it.
me on my first day back.
Oh, right.
I was thinking about that. That's true. I was thinking about that.
So you know what? So let's start there, right? Well, as I fix your camera, right? Let's start there. And so we have a newly married young lady here today, Lady Esther. Why don't you give her some? Because you was here before, and you told her, you kind of gave her some cues going into the marriage. Now she's in marriage.
That's right. Last time
Right?
I talked to
So
you,
let's talk there. Let's start there. So what type of things would you tell her now that she's married, right?
Yep.
What what would you give her? What type of advice would you give her? What would you say?
I just say keep, what all you did before you got married to get to the point where you want to be married is keep doing that. You have to stay focused on what you love about your spouse, and keep reminding yourself the reason why you married him, right? So a lot of times as time goes on, we forget that part. We forget why we married the person we married, and we're going to have arguments, we're going to have disagreements, but the bottom line is your team now. That's right. It's not separate. You're not, you and him. It's us. We're a team. So everything that you decide to do, make sure that you do it together and have conversations about, your thoughts and wants and desires. And that's what I recommend anybody to do, is to always stay focused on why you married the person and to make sure that you are a team. And it's hard when you first get married anyway to be a team because you're so used to doing you. But when you think about why you got married and who you're with, always remember that you married this person for a reason, and you married for life, and not to get to the point where you feel like, okay, I don't like you today, so I want a divorce. Because you're going to run into that. You're definitely going to run into that.
What say you, Stace?
I think that's great advice.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of it, I'm already in that headspace, so it means I'm off to a good start. So, yeah, that's appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there's a conversation that has been happening. No, I'll get to that later. So you mentioned, everything is joint now, right? You become a team. I have heard oftentimes where there's this narrative or pushing that, you're still supposed to have something in the tuck. Go get your own account. You don't have to share everything with him. And it's usually said to the woman to do that, not necessarily the guy, right? The guys are like, okay, right? But what's your thoughts on, the idea of, not necessarily telling your spouse, what you have, but, still opening up a separate account? I believe that it's still okay to have a separate, just let them know, like, I got something else, like a savings or something like that. What's your thoughts on that? Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I think that, okay, let me ask you this. What was the conversation before you got married? What were your expectations?
Right.
Did you talk about bank accounts? Did you talk about whether those bank accounts are going to be joint or if they're going to be separate? Who's going to pay what? All those things are important. So there's no right or wrong. It's what you as a team decide to do.
I like that. I like that answer. And I think a lot of people don't think of or don't talk about quote unquote deal breakers, right?
True.
I don't
That's
think
so
people
true.
go in and say, okay, it's this, I guess they call it the honeymoon time or whatever, right? But I don't think before you get married, you talk about like, yo, babe, this is a deal breaker for me, maybe not like that said like that, but I don't think a lot of people talk about what really grinds their gears, right?
Right.
And so how would somebody initiate a conversation like that? Because that can be an uncomfortable conversation, right? Yeah.
It doesn't have to be uncomfortable.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be uncomfortable because if that's part of what you discussed or what you want to know about a person before you even marry them,
Right.
which you definitely should have that conversation before you marry someone
Yeah.
to know what their finances are, to know what their credit score is. You need to know that information because when you get together and you decide to buy a house or something major, you need to know what the finances look like.
Yeah.
So my thing is keep talking, keep having conversation, and make sure you're having a conversation when there's not stress happening. Make sure that conversation is a general conversation when everybody is good, not when circumstances come about where you're like, well, why you didn't tell me this?
Yeah.
No, have the conversation when everybody's cool, when everybody is relaxed and just having an A and B conversation. It should be brought up.
Right.
And for all these people who are out here who are not married and considering marriage, please have the conversation before you get married because the last thing you need to do is be having this conversation after you get married.
Right. Dr. Deb, 40 years as a coach, as a marriaging coach, that's a long time. What's the most surprising lesson that you've learned as a relationship coach?
First of all, I've been married for over 40. I've been in a relationship for over 40 years, not doing this for 40 years. So
okay.
let's clarify that right
I
now.
understand.
Okay, but to me, and I say this over and over again, people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
People don't have a clue who they are, and they get into relationships and they just decide as they go along, trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest thing that I talk about in my Married Women's Forum and when I'm talking to couples. Figure out who you are. Believe me, as I talk about my book tonight, I'm going to talk about that because there's so much trauma going on in our society.
Yeah.
And you're bringing that trauma into your relationship. But what are you doing before you come into the relationship? What are you doing to take care of you? What are you doing to understand your wants, desires, and needs? So that you be able to tell your partner what that is. Because if you don't know, how can you express what you need, what you want, what you desire? You have to know who you are.
Right. Yeah. So I have a question. There's this debate. There's a few debates going on, especially the battle of the sexes, right? But what's your take on, it comes out of the Bible, but this whole equally yoked conversation, right? When you hear that, how do you define that? What does that actually mean? I hear it so many different ways what equally yoked is, right? But how would you define it, or how would you approach that conversation?
Most people define it through religion, right? Most people talk about being equally yoked once you're married. When it comes to marriage, there's sometimes you're not equally yoked. You determine that based on what your partner does versus what you do. Everybody has their own skill sets, right? So it's what you bring to the table, and that's a discussion that you have to have as well. Marriage is not always equal.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. It is not. And we have to find the middle ground of what that looks like for each couple. So that's basically what it is. But the bottom line is, what are you bringing to the table? What have you decided each person is going to do or bring to the table? And that's based on each couple. So it differs.
Right.
So we can't just put a blanket statement on that.
So when there's, you know, a quote unquote girl talk conversation where you hear, you know, the young lady say, well, you know, I want someone who, you know, if I'm educated, you know, and I got a great job, then, you know, I'm, you know, a guy isn't good enough for me if he doesn't have a background or he's not educated as much as me or X, Y, and Z, because that's something I have been hearing lately, right? And so how would you approach, is there some merit to that? Or, I mean, because for me, right, I think, you know, I think that everyone is different, right? And for some people that may work, right? Equally yoked may be, okay, well, he doesn't have a job. Meanwhile, he just redid your whole house with his hands, right? That you didn't have to pay for. But so how do you have that conversation, or how would you, you know, engage in conversation with a narrative that someone believes in something like that? What would you say to them?
You're blocking your blessings.
Oh, see, that's Dr. Dad right there. I'm telling you. Yeah, wow.
You're blocking your blessings because you're limiting yourself with finding somebody who could love on you and love you the way you want to be loved, irregardless of what his job title is, irregardless how much money he has in the bank. What else does he bring to the table? Wow. And that's what you got to consider. So that's why I didn't mention that in the beginning about being equally yoked from that perspective, because you can't base it on that. Yeah. That's why so many people are single now, because they're looking for that professional person because they're professional. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But the pool is slim to find that person. Yes. So don't limit yourself. Yeah. Don't block your blessings. Look beyond what you think you want. Right. And are you sure that you want that? Yeah. Again, you got to know who you are. Right,
right. Do you think that it's a lot of celebrities that they glamorize with the whole, you know, get in the bag? He got to make over, I don't even know if it's 6 or 7 figures now.
7.
Like, it's 7.
Yeah, it's like 7 figures.
So, yeah, but, and I think what you said, see, about the equally yoked, I'm looking at it to say, if a woman, let's just say she's looking for a guy with a 6-pack, but she doesn't work out, or you're looking for somebody who is, you know,
I didn't think about that.
On the exercise or the healthy eating, or, you know, whatever that is, but you're looking for something that doesn't necessarily, you know, mirror you. I think Kevin Samuels had that type of concept when he presented it, you know. So what do you say to people who are looking at the glamorization of celebrities to say, you know, to try to mirror Cardi B and Offset?
Good question.
You can't. You're not being realistic because you're looking at the average person, not the celebrity, the average person, and what that average person brings to the table. And I mean, you could be choosy. I don't have a problem with you saying I want somebody who's willing to work out with me, but maybe not to the degree that you might want them to work out with you, right? So anything is possible, but I don't want you to have such specific ideas of what your mate should look like. Yeah. without really exploring other possibilities.
You think that starts, and then specifically for women, do you think that starts from fairy tale age when they're a child and
Disney.
mom is telling,
Yes.
Disney. Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. All of us get read these fairy tales that are not true.
Knight in shining armor.
Marriage is not glamorous. Let's just be honest. Marriage is work.
Yeah.
So, the fairy tale is a lie. Don't believe the hype. It's a lie.
That's
You
right.
taking
Marriage-
notes? It's like yes, that.
Marriage is real. There's ups and downs, and my husband's here with me tonight, so
Yeah,
I'm glad
yeah,
he's
give
here.
him a-
But I mean, we have like this great marriage. I love being married to this
Let me
man.
put this brother on the camera real quick, because I mean, he coming. We gonna get him having in this conversation.
He hasn't said much yet, so she must be on the right track. He hasn't jumped in yet.
Let me turn this camera around. How are you, my brother?
We do.
You know we do. Stop it.
I feel good. I feel so good right now.
We do, because
you.
we both of us were previously married, and we both worked on ourselves. We both knew what we wanted, and we became friends.
Right.
I'm gonna say this again.
Wow.
We became friends way before we got into a relationship.
Right.
So we knew so much about each other, and we knew what we wanted from each other, right? So all of that comes into play instead of meeting someone and saying, "Ooh, I want to be with you." Get to know the person. That's the key. Get to know them. And David and I, that's what we did, right? We talked and became friends. Even before we even thought about being a couple, we became friends.
Right, but she did check me on that finance thing. So she's absolutely right, and I agree. You can have all the love in the world, but if your finances are not together, it doesn't make the love real good.
He's talking from experience.
I'm talking from experience, but I'm just saying in general, you are absolutely right. You do need to make sure you have these conversations because it interferes with your relationship down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It may not seem like it, but it will get in the way. So
And how do you make that work with the blended family? Both been married previously, and then now bringing your families together. Give us some insight or some guidelines on how to make that successful.
Well, your children have to know that you're interested in someone. It's not like the person you're madly in love with just shows up one day and you're like, we're going to be together. There's conversations about that. Especially if there's young children involved, you make sure that this is the relationship that you're serious about before you bring in anybody else.
Right.
But the other thing is, when you are dealing with adult children, they need to know that you are dating someone or going to be with someone, but in the final analysis, it's your decision. If they don't live in your house, it's your decision on whatever you want to do. And that's the part that, you got to think about.
yeah, that was a conversation we had. And to realize that they are adults, and so are we, and this is what it is.
Right.
And you can come on in or not,
Right.
but I can't live for you because
Right.
I raised you, and now, this is our new life.
Yep.
So.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, that helps because I have adult children as well, and it seems like the tables kind of turn a little bit when they get to be like almost 30-ish and over. They try to I guess rule your life now as if they're the parent. Can you tell us about how do we maintain intimacy? You've been together for so long. I know you still, you do the date nights, you do those type of things, but how do you keep that not just on the intimacy side of the bedroom, but how do you just keep that alive, that fire burning?
I'm so good at this. Let me tell you. No, I love it. Actually, that's what we're talking about in my Married Women's Forum. So, but the one thing that I think people forget is the emotional aspect of intimacy. And that entails so many things, right? Feeling safe with your spouse. That is crucial. That is key. You have to feel safe because intimacy is all about having those conversations, being able to, if something's on your mind, feeling comfortable to be able to share that information with your spouse, right?
Yeah.
Being able to talk about any and everything without the fear of being judged, without the fear of being put down, because you want a safe haven in your environment.
That's right.
So all of that is important when it comes to intimacy, but there's so many wonderful things that you could do to keep intimacy going. And I think I had mentioned this before, but putting that card in the mail, which is such a wonderful surprise. I do that with David all the time. I'll put a card in the mail, dance, sometimes we forget, that we used to dance together, right? And David and I will hear a song and we'll get up and we'll dance. And the other thing is we reminisce a lot. We reminisce about when we were dating and what we did. And,
That keeps it strong.
It does,
The
doesn't it?
reminiscing brings everything to the center.
Yep. Yep.
To check with yourself to make sure, that's what it was.
Yep.
Because we can easily forget about, because every day, the way life is, the way this world is turning, you forget.
Yeah.
You lose track of time.
I think that's an excellent transition to go into how did you meet? How did you guys meet? You want to let's reminisce then. Let's go down that road, right? Because I want to know.
No, I was going to say, so that reminiscing is almost like that, remembering why you got married in the first place.
That's right. That's
Thing,
right.
keeping things on track.
Yes, it keeps it going. Well, I met David. David is my brother-in-law's best friend. And I used to live in Cincinnati before I moved here, and I would come to visit my sister who she was living here in Philly, but then she moved to Delaware. And I would come, and the first couple of times it was, hi, how you doing? And my sister, it was so interesting because my sister would always be like, David, you remember my sister Debbie? And
From Ohio.
From Ohio. And then and we would just say hi to each other and keep it moving, right?
Hi.
And then the third time I came, we finally had a conversation. And the conversation is where we found out.
Went like that.
I know, right? We found out things about each other that we had in common. And it was just an A&B conversation. It wasn't like, I'm trying to get to know you, you're trying to get to know me. It was just the first time we actually had a conversation. And it was a really good conversation. Right. And then I left. I went back to Ohio, and then months later, we started talking, moved here, and we just continued the conversation and then discovered how much we liked each other.
The move was not because of me.
No. No.
Hey, let me clear it up now. Let me clear it up.
No, I did not move here for David. Okay. I moved here for me. I had ended my, I had been separated from my ex-husband for 3 years anyway. Right. And I moved here because of the circumstances was right. You know, I wanted to start fresh. I wanted something new. And that's why I moved here, not for David. But, I mean, I'm glad I did.
There you go.
Say it again.
I'm glad I did.
See, look at that. I love it. Yeah.
So that's how everything got started with us. I just love our...
I keep her laughing.
Every day.
I could tell.
Every day. Every single day, that's this funny. Man makes me laugh.
She thought I would run out of jokes.
Never.
In entertainment, because I entertain her.
Yes.
That's the other thing.
Exactly.
That's our dynamics too. She could say something to me, and I just take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
creates the scenarios.
Yes, but puts a smile on her face that is real and genuine.
Right.
And that's that love that I have for her, because she's like real.
Wow.
And she can't hide it if she isn't real.
That is true.
And that's the other part I love, because I can say, I'm in trouble. But in most part, it's always very good energy.
Yes.
Very good.
Fantastic.
I like how you just said that though, because she said you have to know yourself. Well, once you get to have your partner, then he's supposed to or she study you.
Yes.
So when you're dating,
Yes.
it's like have somebody who has the wherewithal or that emotional intelligence to be like, hey, I'm studying you as well. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep.
So like when, as a coach, do you believe in the whole chemistry thing? Like when they're doing online dating and they're like checking the boxes to see if people are compatible. Does that matter? Because compatibility is what keeps you together, but is compatibility just routine over time? Like you just get used to people's, their ways.
Only if you let it. I just feel like David and I know each other very well.
But it was that one-on-one in person.
I agree.
I think you really need to have that
Yeah.
personally because, behind the screen or the curtain, it's different
Right.
until you actually sit down and look into that person's eyes and feel their energy. It's just a natural thing. We all have it.
Yeah. But
You
we
can
don't.
look at someone on a job and right away go, oh no, this not gonna work.
That energy, right? Energy don't lie.
No, that's
it's
true.
just energy that you have when
right.
it's live.
Yeah. I agree. You have to. I think that chemistry can happen as time goes on.
Right.
But it's all about getting to know each other, and that's the key. You have to know each other. You have to, first of all, you have to want to know someone. You can't just, say, I want to get with this person. I want to hang with this person. No, you have to get to know them. You have to want to know them.
So because you said that, this time, jeez, I got so many other questions. No, that's all right, because all right. But real quick, because you say that, and I think of the idea that some women, when they get into relationships, they may see a guy that they believe might be broken and they can fix him.
Oh, please don't.
Right. And so when it happens a lot because it's what they see, they want a different person, right? So how do you engage in conversation with someone that they have someone that they kind of like, right? But it's not 100% there. So they feel the need to fix to get it to 100%, Can that happen? Or what should they do? Should they just say kind of like, we shouldn't even be in this situation? Like, how do you grasp that concept of you can't fix anyone? That's who they are, and either you deal with it or don't.
That's so true. No one can change anyone. The person has to be willing to change. Doesn't mean they won't change.
Right.
It just means that they have to be willing to change. We have no control over anybody but ourselves. We can't change anyone, only ourselves.
Right.
So when you see someone, and not to say the person doesn't have potential,
Right.
but if you're having a conversation with this person and you're telling this person what you want, what your wants, needs, and desires are, and if they're not listening or if they don't feel you, you're wasting your time. That's the bottom line. You're wasting your time.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, even guys, I think we get caught up into, if we like someone, we try our best to make them like us, and we can't make listen, gentlemen, you can't, if they don't like you, you can't make them like you.
Right.
It's a vibration there. If y'all meant to be together, it'll feel natural, it'll feel right. But I think a lot of us men, we often see a young lady that we really like and we do everything to make her like us, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Yeah.
It has to be, mutual.
Yeah.
It has to be mutual.
Now, marriage is on the front end, divorce is on the back end. unfortunately. Do you talk to your
You just went there.
do you talk to your clients about that? And one question I have is when parents use children as pawns, even outside of the divorce, to just use that child to the parent to say, you know, I'm almost going to make you do what I want you to do based on using the children. What do you say to those type of people who do to do that?
Well, you're hurting the children. And that's the bottom line. If you're a good mother or a good father, then you're gonna look at your children and see how your behavior is affecting your children. That's the bottom line.
Sometimes the kids don't even know. Sometimes they're just doing it behind, like the children don't know, but they're telling each other as adults, this, you know, throwing their childs in their face, like, you know, well, I'll take your whole family, or, you know, those type of things.
You know what? We all have this disillusion that children don't know things. But they do.
They know everything.
Yeah.
Children feel vibrations. Children feel what's going on. They might not know exactly what it is, but think about the fact of how the parent talks about the other parent, how they respond when the parent shows up or when the parent calls. And how many conversations have they had when they think their children aren't listening, but they are? So you have to be careful. You have to be careful with how you deal with the other person. I mean, even though my children were grown when I got divorced, I didn't say much at all in front of my children about my relationship. And my book that I just wrote,
Yeah, we're going to get in that.
I'm telling you, it's... Everybody gonna be surprised.
Well, you know what? I think that's an excellent transition. Let's jump right into the book, right? Because time is flying, and jeez, I gotta let you go. But I want to talk about the book before you go anywhere. So let's talk about the new book real quick, and also where people can find the book and all that good old stuff. Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, first of all, I've had so many technical difficulties that it's not ready yet, but I am accepting pre-orders.
Okay.
You know, so for anyone who wants to pre-order my book, I'll sign it and mail it to you, of course. So you get a personal signature from me.
There you go.
But yeah, it's this book. It took me years to decide to write this book, and I wrote this book because I just felt like my story needed to be told. I've held back so many years on not talking about what happened, how my marriage ended. Because I was protecting everybody else. Right. And then you kind of realize that nobody's protecting you. You know, people have their ideas about what happened. And the one thing that most people thought when we got divorced is that it was my fault. Like, I wanted the divorce or whatever. But in my book, you find out, and I'll even talk about it. What happened was, we went on a cruise, and we took my parents on this cruise.
And stop right there, because I don't want you to give it away, because that's a good cliffhanger right there. I'm doing you a favor right now, because now I want to know, and I'm sure people who watch this want to know what actually happened on that cruise, right? And I think that's an excellent transition. So let's talk a little bit about how they can find you, how they can get the book and all that good old stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can go to Nurture Your Love on Instagram.
Love it.
And go into my bio, and all my information is there. So Nurture Your Love. If on Instagram, it's Nurture Your Love. If you just want to go to my website, it's nurtureyourlove.com, and it's NUR. Most people type in NU, but it's NURTURE. Nurture. Yeah. Nurtureyourlove.com. So you can go there and you can pre-order my book. And just let me say that not only do I tell my story, but I also give you information on how not to end your marriage like mine. You know, I give a lot of information on, communication, making sure that you know who you are, because like I said, that's my motto. You have to know who you are. And I talk about my trauma and how my trauma affected, we both had trauma, and how our trauma affected our relationship, and how my ex-husband spent like 6 months dogging me out.
Wow. Don't say nothing else. Woo. Woo!
Where
This is
can
getting,
we can go where to find your book?
yeah. Where can we get the book? Where we get the book?
nurtureyourlove.com.
Hold on, I gotta use Sizzle. Hold on, where's Sizzle? There you
Y'all
go.
funny.
That's Sizzle thing right there.
Y'all funny.
Hold on, where they get it again? Where can they get it?
They might make this into a
I
movie,
know.
Dr. Dad.
This book sounds. I'm telling you, go ahead. One more.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
It's nurtureyourlove.com, or I'm on Instagram as nurtureyourlove.
All right, no doubt, no doubt.
So
Well-
you'll find it. But let me wait.
No,
'cause
yeah, we waiting. Go ahead.
I want to give you the title.
Okay.
It's Unspoken Words: How Unresolved Conflicts Can Erode a Lifetime of Love. So I want you guys to keep in mind, I was married for 34 years.
Wow.
And it wasn't all bad. I could never say it was all bad. We had some really good years, but the end was horrible.
Okay.
The end was really bad. And like I said, most people think it was me, but it was actually him. And they'll find out in the book
There you
what
go.
actually happened.
Where they get it one more again?
nurtureyourlove.com.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I call her Dr. I call her Dr. Deb right there because she drops those bombs, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. You already know that.
Thank you for having me. I
Absolutely,
appreciate
absolutely. And your other half here,
I
man.
know, my
Give
nice
him a round of
surprise.
applause. Yeah.
it.
You know, yeah, the
so
love.
sweet.
You can definitely see the love there, and I'm super excited about that. You dropped some jewels for Lady S. Dot over here, who just recently got married at a beautiful wedding that had me super busy. No, but it was a pleasure to see her how happy and how beautiful that wedding was, because
Yes,
that's what we
she
want
looked
for
gorgeous.
Lady S. Dot. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want you guys to go anywhere because I think we have the other doc on. She's waiting backstage, so we're going to be right to you in a second. We're going to go to the sizzle, and then we got a jam-packed show, so I don't want you guys to go anywhere. When we come back, I believe we had a sizzle. Hey, Doc, I see you backstage. You got some time to hold on with us? She said, yes. I love you for that. I love you for that. So I don't want you guys to go anywhere. We're going to come back with the sizzle, and then we're going to have our next interview. Let's put this fantastic... Spark don't like this, but I like it. We'll be right back, y'all.
We just want to get a little background as to who the Fantastic Noise is and the noisemakers. If you can let us know.
Yes, absolutely. So once again, I am Fantastic Noise. I am the original noisemaker, so no one's going to make as much noise as me, okay? And right here we have the Noisemaker Band. This is only half of it. The other stuffs are upstairs. My Kevin Lamar, Lonnie, and Dobbs, who are the actual band members. These are the background singers. And we came to make some noise. We came to bring that noise today. That's what we try to do. That's it.
right.
Yeah.
And how did you guys get together?
Oh man, so it started with, I've been doing this on my own for almost 3 years now. And man, I guess each of these people here have different background stories. Most of us went to the same church together, and we just kept going. This one, her here, this is one of my assistants here, one of like my biggest supporter, my biggest shooter here. She's an assistant. So we just been building, and the same thing with upstairs with the band, just meeting through people, kept networking, kept seeing, and it was just like God ordained. Bam, here we are.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, could you guys do We Talk Weekly a favor?
Yes.
Can you give us a drop in a melody type way?
Oh, a Millie type way?
Yes.
Okay. So we talk weekly?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do something like this. We talk weekly, come and hear us. We talk weekly, come and hear them. 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 We talk weekly, come and hear them.
You just gave me like. Okay, get beautified because y'all already gorgeous.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hercules. No doubt. And so what a dynamic interview that was. We was talking a little bit about some love and relationships. You know, that ain't my thing right there. But I love when people are in love, though. I love, especially black love. Black love is important. We need to love each other. And I love this young lady that's about to come on right now. So without further ado, I'm about to call you Sizzle because that's what she doing. But classy lady, tell me, who do we have today?
Today we have another doctor. We have Dr. Lakeitha Poole. She is the assistant sports director of mental health for LSU athletes. and a member of the NFL's Mental Health Board. That's major. A New Orleans native, she also runs small talk counseling and consulting. With her expertise, creates a safe space for clients to grow and thrive. Y'all already know what to do. Let's give a warm We Talk Weekly welcome to Dr. Lakeitha Poole.
How are you? How are you?
Good. How are y'all? I know my southern accent saying, "How are y'all?"
It's all good. It's all good. We good. We
I
good.
like New Orleans dialect.
No, it's New Orleans.
New
She gotta say
Orleans.
New Orleans.
It's New Orleans.
New Orleans.
No doubt. No doubt. So first of all, thanks for coming to the show. Really
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me.
And
Absolutely.
I was since we're talking about mental health, right? And we're talking about athletes, because that's your scope. Let's jump right into the Olympics.
Yeah.
And we have all right, so I'm gonna preface this by saying this, right? So there has been a lot of commentary about Simone Biles, right? And them talking about her hair to, them now upset that she saluted someone from Brazil to all this chatter, and Simone Biles can't do nothing wrong with me, so I'm like her biggest fan, right? But I'm my concern is, her mental health, and for something like that or athlete like that constantly get berated with, bad commentary or people pointing fingers or anything of that matter, what would you say to a Simone Biles or any athlete that would go through something like that?
Yeah, I think, she's actually a great example of what it looks like when somebody understands that, the noise and the commentary from people who could never even come close to physically doing the things that she does. I think because what we saw during the last Olympics, where she stepped away for a bit and took time to figure out herself and to figure out what was going on with her. She's talked a lot during this Olympics about
Right.
how she stayed in touch with her therapist while being in Paris, and her therapist is back here in the US, and like prioritizing what she needs. And so it's interesting because I don't know that people would feel the same way if she was talking about other ways to like physically maintain her body, right? Like athletes after they compete, they get treatment from their athletic trainers, they see the team doctors. It's no different with our brains. Our brains are a physical part of our body too. And so I'm proud of her for being able to do that. So I would tell any athlete, you have to know what works best for you and for your body. And for her, it's her mind. Gymnastics is a pretty mental sport, but I mean, we could pick any of the greats, and I would be willing to bet that most of them had some sort of way of taking care of themselves mentally, emotionally. The men's basketball team, they just won, as well a little while ago. And, I think about folks who aren't competing anymore, the D Wades who's doing commentary for it, Serena Williams, like people who we all know obviously are goated in their status of being the greatest athletes in the world. They know what it meant for them to have to be there. And so I think if we can, lay off a little bit of these, in some ways they're superhumans, they're regular people, but they're superhumans in what they do to train all year long for these big moments. So I'm proud of her.
So we have, as we'll stay on the Olympics just a little while longer, because I want to talk about the Sha'Carri Richardsons, and her going through her valleys and peaks as it relates to just performing, her trying to stay consistent with the performance and the expectations that the world has for her, right? How big of a burden is that for an athlete, right? Especially if you're looking at me to achieve and I fall short, right? But then you see she just last her, the 4x1 where she excelled, right? She came from behind and then won. Shout out to I love that's another one. I love me some Chicago, right? And so how do we assist, not necessarily assist per se, but what do you tell, people, because it's not just athletes, right? What do you say when, you may not achieve and then you finally make the grade, so to speak, but then sometimes get knocked back off the horse. How do you recover from that?
Yeah, I think it's the last part of what you just said. Like we're all human, and so it would be, I think, a strange thing if we didn't have goals or if we didn't have things that we wanted to achieve, and that we all know it takes effort and energy to make those things happen. And so with somebody like Sha'Carri, who fortunately I've seen her in her element in the collegiate space at LSU, and so I recognize that there's a part of athlete identity that a lot of times people, I think, just choose to ignore, in that yes, they're human, but also, like, think about the ages of some of these athletes. They're early 20s, and they're just figuring out life as people. And so the same way we all want to excel when we're on our jobs, we're performers too. We want to be able to make mistakes and be able to bounce back. We also want people to see that we're more than just maybe the roles or the things that they want us to accomplish in that moment. And so I'm proud of her. I feel like she's FloJo reincarnated, who
Yes,
I was a
Yes,
fan of
I
as a
can
little
see that.
girl.
Mhm.
And so just her tenacity and her ability to, have what I'm sure some people might think of as like a don't care attitude, but in actuality, kind of like we were talking about with Simone, when you're the best, you sort of have to walk in that. You have to be able
yeah.
to be like, this is who I am. And I think that maintains actually a healthy mental state for athletes like that. But I think also it allows for there to be grace for themselves, which is really the only person to most of them that matter. When something doesn't go their way, it just gives them the fuel that they need to get back out there and do it again. And she's another great example. This, the last Olympics, she was trying to sort it out and figure it out for Tokyo. Didn't make it didn't happen. And then she's back and better than ever. And she's even been quoted saying that, she's not just back, she's better. And so I think being able to know yourself as a human, whether you're an athlete or not, it makes a huge difference in what excelling and being resilient really looks like.
I have one more question about the Olympics, because I
Yeah.
think, when I think of what you're into and your scope and your specialty, just the circle of emotions, right? That I see, that not only the athletes but the people who's watching and supporting these athletes, and I
Yeah.
think this right here, right, may become, or may be a shock to everyone, because this just popped up in my feed, right? It says Jordan Childs stripped of Olympic bronze medal. Now, I didn't vet that, right? But this was on, I believe it was on, hold on one second. I didn't get a chance to vet this, but it seemed that it was essence. And so it seemed that the other team actually put in another protest, right? And they found that because of the 1 minute rule, they were supposed to put the challenge in before 1 minute, but it happened after 1 minute.
Oh
So
wow.
the possibility of her bronze being stripped from her
Mm.
mentally, emotionally, physically, that can drive someone insane, right? And so, what would be, first of all, what's your thoughts on that? And two, how would you like address something like that to an athlete who came to you? Say, for example, Jordan Childs was your client. Like, how would you talk to her if emotionally she came to you upset because that had truly happened, right? And I have to say
Yeah. I
alleged because
mean,
I didn't vet it, but
yeah, I just saw something right before hopping on with y'all about it too. I haven't seen the full details of what happened or what the rule was. But I think that's interesting because it's a rule that obviously, like, the performing entities, every country, we're all supposed to be aware of those things. And so it really isn't the athlete's fault that if some challenge or whatever came in late. So that's a tough one. I do think, though, if it ends up being true and that is what happens, again, I think from an observing fan of Jordan's and those athletes for that particular sport, I think she will be okay. But I think one of the things I have to make sure that from a clinical perspective that I would talk to her about is making sure that she doesn't feel like something that is, based on a rule or based on sort of an outside decision, doesn't affect the way in which she views her performance in order to earn that medal. I think it was looking, I don't know how much y'all followed Jim from the beginning of the Olympics, but like it wasn't even looking at
yeah,
that Jordan was going to get to compete for an individual medal in the first place, and someone got sick, and so there were all these kind of crazy circumstances about her competing. And I think it's, you know, it's almost ironic, and so in those moments, it's figuring out like where that person learns to, you know, laugh off the craziness of sport, because sports are wild, and then also supporting her, obviously, and being able to recognize, like, you know, she's still a gold medalist. Team USA itself got their gold medal. And if individually that has changed something, you know, for her, she's also earned other medals before. And so, I mean, I think she's earned other, you know, in other ways that she's been a well-accomplished athlete, and she's not done yet. And so I think being able to, you know, encourage an athlete in that way, knowing that sometimes circumstances happen, just like in life, that you have to be able to, you know, be okay to know what your contribution was and what it wasn't. In this case, it sounds like it really wasn't her contribution. It was rules.
Yeah. Dr. Poole, thank you for that. Thank you for your analysis on the Olympics.
I did my best, I know.
Excellent analysis. And I appreciate that. So now let's get into you, because this conversation, this interview is about you. So I want to start with, you know, first of all, how are you? How are you doing? How's your mental health, right? I normally start a conversation with how are you, and I want to start there. How are you, and how's your mental health, Ian?
I appreciate that. I don't get asked that often. I'm asking that to most people every day, all day. So I'm well. It is an exciting time, like in sport, and so that makes my job, which is different every day, fun. And, you know, obviously watching the Olympics, and then my role full time is working in the collegiate space, and, you know, working at a large institution, an SEC school like LSU is never a dull moment. And, you know, so I try to do my best to find a balance of taking care of myself and just getting ready to start another season of sports. And so I'm well.
Fantastic. You got into this space, right? Was it something that pushed you into kind of this you know, this support sector of, you know, mental health, mental wellness? What actually got you into this particular field? Because, you know, we had a few, you know, psychologists on, consultants on, you know, and I guess what I often wonder is, was it something that triggered you to do this because of, you know, your own kind of life experiences, right? What actually got you into this field?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I fell into the work through life circumstance, kind of. So you guys mentioned earlier, I'm from New Orleans. Y'all know it rains there a lot and it floods there a lot. And so I actually happened to be a high school senior when Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005. And we lost everything. So we started life completely over, had to go to a new school for my senior year. My college applications were probably somewhere lost in the mail. I don't know, but eventually I made it. And I remember in that experience, observing my mother and my grandmother trying to just like hold our life together or piece our life back together. And I remember watching them have various ways of coping. And of course, at the time I was 17, so I didn't necessarily fully understand what they were doing to keep themselves together. And the irony, I guess, of it is I ended up, for my spring semester of my senior year, my high school, our teachers were amazing and went and cleaned up our school so that any of us who could get back to the city could kind of graduate together. And so my mom got me back to New Orleans so I could do that. And I took a psychology elective. I had one just open elective slot and took it. And that class opened up just a whole world language wise for me of explaining emotions and coping and being able to just better understand, particularly, you know, as a Black clinician and a Black woman, like that, growing up with psychology as a part of like your way of life is just not normal for us. It's changing, it's getting better now, but back then that just wasn't a thing. And so I didn't have anyone in my family to ask about having this as a career. And so that class changed my life. And then I went on to Florida State for undergrad, majored in psychology, just kept going, got my master's in clinical mental health, got my PhD in counselor ed, just to keep learning as much as I could, because I felt like, well, if that happened to me back, you know, at 17, I'm 36 now, and realizing that just having the right language to explain my feelings made a huge difference in my life, the trajectory of my life. then what could that look like, to be that for somebody else? And so I started out just working broadly in clinical mental health, so not necessarily with athletes. I loved working with college age students. And so slowly that scope just got more and more narrow. And for the last 9 years, I've worked with specifically athletes, but for the last about 15, 14, have worked with college age students on their mental health and wellness. And it's been a joy. It's
awesome.
allowed me to be what would have been something I would have wanted back then.
That's awesome, Dr. Poole. That's great. Dr. Poole, I wanted to ask you about far as contact sports, like football and boxing, like those are high physical injuries that can even cause mental health. Like what do you tell students, or what's your insight on those contact sports?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, football is a big one where we see CTE, like a lot of injuries will happen, and sort of there's some repercussions mentally for people, usually in the long term. So they usually don't see the immediate impacts of things like that. But it's tough because by the time folks get to the collegiate and the pro space for both playing at a school like LSU or in the NFL. They usually have been playing park ball since they were like 4 or 5. And so it's really helping them to have a healthy balance of understanding, like, what does it mean to play as safely as you can in the sport like that, while also knowing most of the folks who play those sports, they love it. And it has become an outlet for them, sometimes mentally and emotionally, to be honest. And then helping them to figure out, what does that look like to elevate constantly, to keep themselves safe while knowing you're always kind of taking a risk when you go out there. And so I honestly don't worry as much about the players. It's like usually their parents and their families who are just so nervous for them all the time, which, I mean, to be fair, they have the right to be. Those are pretty dangerous sports. Part of it, though, is really from a performance perspective, learning how to play your sport safely. And that could really be for any sport, contact or not. Everybody should kind of think about it that way. What do I need to do to be the best at it, while also, being safe? So there's a lot out there to be leery of.
What are some of the signs of the CTE that you see? Like,
You'll see some memory loss. So things that people kind of see as traditional memory loss. You might see somebody becoming more irritable than normal. So, and this again usually happens after people have stopped playing their sport. So usually after a little bit of time, your brain has a little bit of time to not be in that sort of competitive mode, or still in a physical space of feeling like it has to be sort of fully protective of you to play the sport. It gives our brain sort of a exhale moment. And then once that happens, that's when you really start to see some of the signs of damage. So the memory loss, the irritability. Sometimes people will have depression or forms of anxiety as a result, and they won't necessarily have direct causes in the way that traditional depression or anxiety typically shows up. And so you really start to see almost like a shell of a person. Just most people in their lives don't recognize them in the same way. That can come in outbursts, or that can end up being maybe permanent for some people. It can be really scary.
Hi, Dr. Poole. I was trying to jump in and ask a question. There's my mic. After listening to you talk about all the different health issues and challenges from these sports, do you, and playing safe, right? So you really have to learn how to play safe to avoid these things. Is that it? And I don't know, if they don't, like, is it worth it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so you do have to kind of learn to play your sport safely. Again, you could think of, we used like football as an example, but going back to our examples of like gymnastics, that's a dangerous sport. Like if you slip off of a beam, you can break your neck. Or I've seen examples of, young women in particular on, those events, like falling and literally seeing their legs dislocate. And I mean, that's scary. And so there's only so much you can do to protect yourself, obviously, when the sport itself is dangerous. I think that it does pose a lot of questions, and I get asked that a lot of like, yeah, is it worth it? and I think that's tough, as somebody who I was an athlete all the way up until high school and until Katrina happened. I didn't get my senior season of volleyball and track, but I recognize that, there are protective factors for us emotionally that come with playing sport. And so people who play those sports, they love it. Like athletes love what they do. There's a chemical sort of reaction that also happens for all of us the same way when we see someone we love or we get to do an activity that we love, our body and brains respond. There's almost, people talk about like a runner's high for people who love running and jogging, and like those same things happen in sport. And so it's tough as somebody who isn't putting in their work in the way that they are every single day to say like, do you give it up? Do you stop? Because you potentially could be hurt. And instead, maybe again, helping to make sure that the education is there, and that the resources are there, particularly when you start talking about college sports, when you start talking about professional sports, those leagues, they owe it to those folks who are putting their mind and body on the line every day to make sure they have the best possible resources to avoid those long-term injuries like that. So it's tough. I feel like some of my athletes, if they heard me, would be like, Dr. Poole, don't tell me not to play my sport. But I mean, again, I am a person that's always like, well, how do we do this the safest way possible and make sure that we're just being proactive and looking out for things like the signs and stuff like that if something does happen. Because it's hard. It's hard on their family and friends afterwards when they don't get that same person back that they started, playing football when they were 5 and now they're 25 and they don't even recognize them anymore.
You don't want them to live in fear either. You want them to,
right.
You don't want to not do something because of the thought of you might get hurt, right? You just want to go do it and have fun and live that life. But when you talk about playing safe, especially in a sport like contact sport like football, right? It's not just for the youth to play safe, but for you to for yourself, but also playing safe for others. So for me, it's always like those, the dirty plays or things like that, because it doesn't matter how safe you are, somebody hits you and you don't know it's coming, and they,
that's right.
and they do it a certain way, intentionally. You gotta. It's all of those things too.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
speaking of safe sports, Dr. Poole, the LGBTQ community, a lot of like transgenders are now playing sports where I guess like if you're born a male and now you're going against like a female, what's your input on that? Because that is a safety cause. Like, anatomically, men and women genetically are born differently. So strength is different. What's your insight on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely is a hot topic right now, specifically in the collegiate space, just because that's a time where people are in places of discovery. They feel the most like themselves. They feel maybe freer to do that. And so we are getting more and more athletes who are comfortable in their identities, being able to say, well, I identify this way, and so I want to compete in this way as well. And so there's lots of controversy in the conversations for sure, but I mean, I think part of it has to do with the fact that, just like you said, like from an anatomical perspective, people have to be able to feel that they are equipped and prepared physically, no matter how they identify, to play their sport. And so what we're seeing is just people being able to kind of combat the spots where people aren't super happy about, maybe somebody who identifies a certain way now, to play within their league. I think we have to leave room for people to say that at the end of the day, I'm going to show up and train in the way that I need to compete at the highest level. And so I don't know that we will never probably have full consensus of the world on what it looks like for people to do so. But I think what we're going to see is that if we're going to say that sport is sort of this great equalizer in communities, and it's a universal space for people to be able to do something they love, like we were talking about earlier, I think there's going to have to be sanctions around what does that look like, to let people play freely while also, again, keeping things safe for people. So I don't think that there's ever been any final conclusion. I know the NCAA is rolling out policies all the time right now about what does it look like and what it will look like. And I don't think we're even close to done in seeing what that's going to be.
Thank you for that.
I'm sorry, my mic was cut off. I'm listening to you. And Dr. Poole, you amazing. I like you. I really
Oh, I
like
like y'all too. I like y'all too.
Yeah, I think I want you to come on a little more often, because I think you bring this professional scope that I think we can jump a little bit more in. So yeah, we gonna talk a little bit. I
Especially when
like
those
Yeah,
that.
I'll come back
those big
anytime for
sports
y'all.
events are coming
Anytime.
up.
For sure. Say that again, lady. That's
I
that.
said, especially when those big sporting events are coming up.
Yeah,
We might need to yield to you for some insight.
yeah, absolutely. I want to jump into when it comes to. Okay, this is a question, right? Because you're amazing at what you do in your commentary as it relates to that. But I want to know, what would you tell, your younger you, right? That you something that you know now, right? That if you knew then, you would do differently based on the context of you understanding more of not only yourself, but more of the mental capacities of people. Psychology, their movement. The quote air quotes right from wrong, because we already know that dynamic,
It's
right? So
relative.
it's
Yep.
relative, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about that. What would you tell your younger you? Your maybe your 14, maybe your 12-year-old self, Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would, one, encourage me to be able to stay free and open. Like my mom raised me to be that kid that tried anything. So, and being from New Orleans, we do sports, we do music, we paint, we write, and so that's a part of like the culture there. And so I think from a sort of mental health and a wellness perspective, I don't know that I ever would have imagined that some of the things that I've now done and been exposed to and had, the ability to accomplish, that I saw myself doing that. And so I would just encourage me to be able to sort of be open to the fact that, like, you can do anything you put your mind to. And I tell that to athletes all the time, obviously now, but I don't necessarily know that as a kid, just because I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't understand fully what it meant to take care of my well-being at that age, that I definitely would remind sort of little Lakeitha of that, and really just encourage her to get more involved in figuring out what is like taking care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally look like, because we do all have stories. I know you said that earlier, of like most people who get into this field is because they have something about them. And I mean, I use Katrina as that turning point, but my life leading up to that, to 17, also came with a lot. And so I think just encouraging me to be myself, to, do the work, like I say now to people, of figuring out who you are, but liking who you are, like genuinely liking who you are, no matter if you're different than other folks. And so, I think I turned out okay still, but I definitely could have used that more, I'm sure, from people around me, or having that knowledge for myself.
Yeah, you knocking out these questions. You killing me with this, right? And so yes. So why don't
I
you
talk all day for a living. I get to do this. That's just
it's
what I
all
do.
good. It's all good. So why don't you tell me, what's the legacy that you would like to leave?
That's a good question. I think about that a lot, actually, just having done this work now for a long time, and recognizing that in order to sort of practice what I preach, there has to come a point where being a clinician directly one-on-one won't be the way in which I would probably keep this work going or keep providing resources, just because it does weigh on mental health practitioners' minds. Like, I don't think people think all the time about us as the humans that we are, that's listening all day to other people's traumas and that sort of thing. And so I think for me, the legacy I'd really want to make sure that I left behind is one that's centered around embracing, wellness and rest. There's a lot of conversation right now that is trending, for particularly for people of color, around, rest being a right and not this thing that you have to earn, and this thing that you have to like work yourself to the bone to sort of earn from life. And so I definitely want to make sure that, in my own, children, or my family members, or my friends and my colleagues, to really make sure that they understand that concept of like being you and being a full, whole version of you that is well taken care of, well loved by yourself. is the greatest gift you can give to yourself. And so I just hope that people realize that. And I want more and more people to kind of realize that. And if I can leave that behind, then I feel like I will have, done my part and fulfilled my purpose. I know I can't touch every single individual in this world, but I feel like I will have conquered my little corner of the world.
What does a day looks like? What is a day in the life of Dr. Poole?
It's rough sometimes. A day in the life.
Walk me through it.
It's just so different. So it could be different every day, right? So a typical day, though, for me, especially on campus, like at LSU, is a day mostly with individual sessions for all of our student athletes. So we have close to 500 student athletes at LSU, and I do have a small staff. So it's myself and 2 other clinicians, and so that's students doing walk-in sessions. Maybe they have a competition coming up, or maybe they have a mental health concern that they arrive to college with, and maybe there's somebody who comes to see me weekly. So the day could be a mix of those types of folks. We also provide all the mental performance work for our teams, which is a little different than just your clinical mental health space. That's more of the things people think about, like your mental skills training, like visualization and cueing, and being able to sort of like get your head like in the game to be the best performer you can be. And so a lot of that work happens with teams. So in a typical day, I might wake up at 6:45 or so and meet with the beach volleyball team because they practice at 7 a.m. I usually get like 15 minutes before and do something with them, either deep breathing exercises, visualization, something like that. Then go into my day of individual sessions. Our volleyball team practices, our indoor volleyball team practices in the afternoon. So I might swing by there to either watch practice, because maybe I have some observations to do of some individual athletes that I'm working with. And then I always try to end maybe stopping by. Football practice is intense, kind of because of the reasons we talked about earlier. So watching that both during the week and then Saturday night too can be a lot. And so sometimes I try to plan out when I pop by those types of practices, that and basketball and some of our other sports. And we're fortunate, we got a lot of different sports, so I get to go from being inside and outside all day, and getting to do a lot of like just connecting with people, coaches and staff, and our student athletes. So it's a fun day.
That's a long day.
You said everything
long.
about work and nothing about you, right? And so I'm talking.
I come at the end of the day.
Okay, that's what I want to hear. So what do you do to kind of settle down from all of the help that you helped everyone else, right?
That is a good question. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm glad you put me on the spot for that. Yeah.
There you go.
So usually to wind down, and I wish I could say what time that usually is, but it varies, to be honest. And so whenever it's time to go home, I found myself more in my drive home. I really end up not listening to like music. Like when I'm coming in, especially if it's 5:45 in the morning, I'm coming in blasting. I love like all types of music, whether it's, New Orleans based like bounce music and Big Frida in the morning or something like that, versus, being able to throw some Beyonce in there or something else. But in the evenings, just because I am trying to kind of give myself permission to let go of whatever everybody else has dumped on me, I try to make sure that, I give myself that quiet moment to drive home. And that's also before I might call and touch base with any friends or family members too, because I'm still a person to them. And sometimes they need me too as a person, not as their therapist, but, as their daughter or their friend, and they might be calling for advice or whatever. And so I try to just give myself that. And by the time I make it home, I usually cook myself some dinner, watch. I'm rewatching Scandal right now. I don't know if that's a good idea during election season to do that, but it felt like the right thing to do right now to keep my brain off of the fact that all these seasons of sports are about to start. And so I just make time to do that. I journal, I pray, I meditate. And so being able to just kind of give myself a routine so that I can, before I lay down for the night, have put aside from my mind and my body, like what the day has kind of dumped on me. And, and I think that takes a lot of practice too, though. I wasn't always as good at that, especially when I first got into this work, because working in athletics, like you guys heard, it starts so early in the day. And then, I can have a full day, like a normal work day, that maybe my last person is at 5 o'clock, but now our women's basketball team might have a 7 o'clock game. Well, I'm not going to go home because I might not come back. And so I'm going to stay there and the game now is not over till 9, and now I'm back at work the next morning for a 7 a.m. practice. And so I do make sure that I set some strict boundaries around my self-care when I can.
All right, there we go.
Dr. Poole, as I mentioned earlier with New Orleans or New Orleans, I don't hear the accent like I thought I was going to hear, but I know that you could bring it out. I know when you say
We
certain
always
words.
do.
Can we hear a little bit of the accent?
I think it depends on what you say. I know most people always, get on us because people drag. I don't know how to not say it that way, but people always talk about us saying baby, and we say baby a lot, and that's a thing. And I think like it's interesting because being from New Orleans, I actually was talking to a friend about this the other day. In New Orleans, there are different accents within the city. So the example I always give is like if you're from uptown New Orleans, you might sound like Wayne, like Lil Wayne, versus if you a drawn out baby. And if you're from Gentilly or New Orleans East, we tend to talk a little faster. I grew up in the lower Ninth Ward and moved to New Orleans East when I was about 12. And so we just have this kind of speed to us, and always feel like we can't slow down when we talk. So, it's interesting. I think I don't notice it coming out until somebody points it out anyway. So it's probably some of the random things that we say. And then y'all know we make up words in New Orleans too, like in phrases, like we say make groceries instead of go to the grocery store. We say I'm gonna go make groceries. So it's an interesting place, but
I heard it when you started explaining.
So probably because that fast talk came, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna throw you a curveball here because you went through this time real fast, and I'm a little upset because you went through my time, right? And so it's all good. No, it's just a joke. And so I want to know the one thing, right, that no one else knows about Dr. Poole that you could tell us right now. We Talk Weekly.
Yeah, one thing I think, and this kind of fits with what you're asking me about, like how do I decompress and escape from the work that I do? So my it's not a full out secret passion. I think people closest to me might know that I love it, but definitely not like our student athletes or other athletes that I work with. Is I am super, super passionate and love interior design, like random, like fun facts. And so it's interesting because I, no matter what, probably find a way to make that connected somehow to mental health. And so I recently have just been really like I took a class at LSU as an undergrad student randomly back in school again. And people are like, you got 3 degrees. Why are you back in school? But I think it's fun. Like it's something that it takes my brain off of, again, the day to day of what is usually pretty heavy work. And I get to then study like color psychology of why people paint their houses a certain color, or, what does it look like to match textures that, the feel of something for somebody makes somebody's energy feel different by when we sit on a leather sofa versus something that feels like vinyl or whatever else. And so I had no idea that interior design, which to me just felt like a fun, crafty thing, could also have this depth to it. And so now I tend to nerd out a little bit, but I feel like I'm doing that right now talking about it. But, I think that that's something a lot of people just would never guess that I would spend, my time doing between that and then like music. My dad was a musician. And so I grew up playing alto saxophone. And I don't think a lot of my athletes know that about me. And so those are things too that when I need to decompress and kind of turn my brain off and just need to do something that I don't have to put a lot of thought into, that's kind of like go-tos. And so now I'm letting my secrets out. Now people know.
There you go. Thanks for that. But fun fact, I have a certification in interior design, right?
What?
So, so when you talk about color psychology, I was going to give you that little nugget. Yeah, but also understanding how rooms are set up, right? Makes people feel either claustrophobic or zen, right?
Yeah.
Color tone, so you can always think about that and put into your little basket of, your piece. So kudos to you, my friend, and we like you here. We like you.
I like y'all too.
Yeah. And so what we'll say is stay in contact with us, And yeah, we'll bring you back to the show. We always say, once you come to the show, you're a friend to the show, so you're always welcome to come back.
Keep
And
doing
I
what you're
appreciate
doing,
that.
that's
Dr.
right.
Poole.
That's
Thank you.
right.
We appreciate it.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you
That's right.
so much. Thanks, y'all, for having me. This was awesome. I
So,
never get asked stuff like this.
so before we let you go, you gotta let us know, let everyone who's watching how they can get in contact with you, all that good old stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody's looking for me through LSU, if you put LSU and you put my name in, you'll find me. But if you're interested in more just general mental health things, my private practice on Instagram is Go Small Talk Counseling. And the GEAUX is how you spell go in Louisiana because everything's French there for us. And so you can find me there. You can find me personally. I kind of try to do a good job of tracking my adventures in sport and being in the consulting world around wellness, and on my personal Instagram, which is just at Lakeitha P. And so either of those, you can find me, find more. If there's any information I can provide to help someone in their mental health journey, please let me know. Happy to do that through those mediums.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Poole. We really want to give you a round of applause for that. Dynamic interview. We love you to death. So, like I said, once you come to the show, you're a friend to the show. So you're always welcome to come back. And we're anticipating hearing from you soon. And if nothing else, you take care of yourself.
Yes, y'all do the same. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Poole.
Take care now.
Y'all. Take
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Poole. We really appreciate her. We really like her, and she'll be back on the show. But one thing that I'm excited for, guess who popped in? Guess who popped in?
Is it the sizzle?
Yeah. The sizzle popped in. What's going on?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How's everybody doing?
Hey, Sizzle.
Hey, I'm mad I'm not there because I wanted to see the newly married woman.
Honest
You'll see me.
woman.
You'll see me.
Yes.
Dr. Deb gave her some good gems.
Oh,
Call them gems.
I think y'all set me up for my first day back.
Yeah, it was definitely a setup. Definitely.
That's funny.
that's crazy. How ironic.
How are you, Sizzle?
I'm doing okay. I had a crazy day today, so I just wanted to give a shout out to my grandma who turned 93 today.
Oh, yay.
Oh,
Come on, Grandma.
congrats.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, she's like on cloud nine today.
And
So
how old?
93.
93,
Wow. So what year was that? 1920?
1931.
31. Wow. She has seen a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. And with this presidential thing coming up, it's just like
Yes.
to see a black woman
Mhm.
run for, I know Shirley Chisholm did it before, but this one is real close.
Yeah,
I know she didn't seen it
exactly.
all.
Yeah, yeah.
Happy
And
birthday, Grandma.
especially seeing things happen that nobody ever thought, like, back then, that would be happening now. We had our first black president already, so that's something that I guess the ancestors would have never imagined would happen here in the United States. But I guess this is the land of opportunity. So I guess now anything can happen. But she gets the fussing when stuff come on. You got to see her, like.
No doubt. This is grandma.
Yes.
So, but you ready for what you got to do right now?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, give it to me early.
All right, so make sure you guys go right now. Don't walk, run, and go subscribe to We Talk Weekly on all social media and podcast platforms. And if you want to make a donation, you can donate to $ Cash App. On Cash App, $ We Talk Weekly. And no donation is too great or too small. All right, so rapper Nelly, he was arrested at the Hollywood Casino in St. Louis for an active warrant for an old traffic violation of no proof of insurance. And when he was arrested, he was in possession of a controlled substance. So they tried to charge him with that as well. But Nelly's attorney, Scott Rosenblum, released a lengthy statement. And he was saying Mr. Haynes was not charged with drug possession. He was arrested for no proof of insurance from 2018 on a warrant issued December 2023 that he received no notice. So he's going on and he's saying the officer informed Mr. Haynes a background check was mandated when a player won over a certain amount. So Nelly is at the casino and he's allegedly won a lot of money. And they're saying that once a player wins a lot of money, they have to do a background check, which is, I mean, I didn't know that was casino procedure, but I guess it is. And then when they did once they did the background check, Mr. Haynes was informed, this is the attorney again, of the warrant for a no proof of insurance infraction. This officer felt compelled to handcuff Mr. Haynes behind his back and parade him through the casino in front of other patrons. So Nelly's attorney added that Nelly was targeted by an overzealous, out-of-line officer. Instead of just supervising the transfer of Mr. Haynes' winnings, the officer felt compelled to needlessly run a check for warrants. So Nelly's attorney is confident that the case will go nowhere and they will be looking into the officer's conduct. I mean, it's just crazy that, and I know other counties are doing some crazy stuff when it comes to like warrants for just little minor stuff, but they do give a warrant for a traffic violation if they take it to court, which most of the times they do. And if you don't show up, they put a warrant out for you. And even traffic tickets, if you owe traffic tickets, they will put a warrant out for you. So, Young Miami, she has finally broken her silence on her relationship with Diddy surrounding the allegations he's facing. So as she returns to her Revolt TV podcast, Carisha Please, Young Miami kicked off the first episode of her second season being interviewed by Saucy Santana on her show. So Young Miami started out talking about her mental health and how people were not supporting or checking on her when everything erupted with Diddy. So according to Young Miami and Diddy's dating timeline, they connected in 2021, confirmed they were dating in June 2022 during an episode of Carisha Please, and in the summer of 2023, Young Miami said she was single in an interview with The Cut. So Young Miami was asked why hasn't she spoken out since all of the allegations of sexual assault, trafficking, domestic abuse, and civil lawsuits came out against Diddy. And she said, I can't speak on something that wasn't my experience, and I can't speak on something I don't know. I can't speak on these allegations because I wasn't around at that time. I don't know that person, and that wasn't my experience. So Young Miami stated she was a victim of abuse in 2 previous relationships and that she wouldn't go through that again. So she talked about when everything went down, she needed to take a break and focus on herself, her career, and her family. And Young Miami says she needed to let Diddy navigate and figure it out on his own because she couldn't get caught up in all that he was going through. So she claimed her and Diddy were in love. So she was in a lot of pain and, over everything that was going on. But one thing she did question is why was she being crucified along with Diddy? So what's your thoughts on that?
I agree with that. Like why are you targeting her?
Yeah, and I think she was being accused of, some things like, drug trafficking, and I don't know if there's any. I haven't heard of any charges against her as far as like the charges that Diddy is facing. But yeah, they were really trying to put her in the mix with everything. So hopefully, he can make her come back because we'll see. All right, so the Celebrity Sizzle Award of the week goes to the USA basketball team. They celebrated their 50th anniversary with a star-studded event to commemorate the milestone. The event, titled A Celebration of Olympic Basketball, brought together members of the USA men's and women's NBA teams. And it was hosted by Comcast NBC Universal Chairman and CEO Brian Roberts and NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. So there was a surprise performance by Snoop Dogg, and then he brought out the women's team on stage. So every member of the 2024 U.S. men's and women's teams were there, such as LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Diana Taurasi, Asia Wilson, and Brianna Stewart. And then you had NBA and WNBA legends and Olympic gold medalists Carmelo Anthony, Andre Iguodala, Chris Mullin, Gary Payton, Dwayne Wade, and Sue Bird. They were all in attendance. And also actresses Gabrielle Union and Taraji P. Henson. Here I go, Gabby, like I know her. Gabrielle Union and Taraji P. Henson were also there. So this celebration comes amid the success of the U.S. at the 2024 Paris Olympics, and ironically, on the heels of the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So the NBA has been playing to hip hop beats for 50 years. So shout out to hip hop too. And I'm your girl Lauren Sizzle, and that was a sizzle. But one quick question for you. What athletes do you remember that doubled as NBA players and rappers in hip hop?
Kobe.
Oh, man.
Kobe.
Yes.
Kobe, the great, well, the GOAT. Kobe, what do you mean? Yeah, Shaq too, though. Kobe,
It's been a
Shaq,
couple.
and
AI, didn't he try it?
AI.
AI.
Was he
But
trying to rap?
I don't remember him rapping.
Rasheed Wallace though. Right?
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Everybody
Wallace,
dipped
yeah.
and dabbed. It was like
It was a few.
It was a cultural thing.
But definitely
Yeah, 'cause
Kobe,
it's funny.
because he was in Philly doing some stuff.
Exactly.
Man.
Rappers want to be ball players,
Yeah.
ball players want to be rappers.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
real quick, in regards to Snoop doing that, from when you did the story with Family Feud, I swear Snoop probably phone is ringing off the hook because they think
Oh
he's the
my
number one.
God. Yeah.
Did you see that on Family Feud?
No.
Yeah.
He was voted number one as, what was it, Sizzle?
It was the top. I think they had eight
The top rapper
top
in the
eight.
world.
Yeah, the top rappers in
He
the
was voted
world.
number one.
They had him at number one.
Snoop, yeah, that's why they probably called him.
Family
It's like-
Feud?
on Family
Yes.
Feud.
But
He said,
come on,
I
Family
know,
Feud.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
questions aren't asked.
Well,
I mean,
That's
Steve
what
Harvey
he said.
apologized to the hip hop community because Snoop was number one. I think LL was last. Was he?
Jay-Z was last.
Okay, Jay-Z made it, but he made it last.
He was last. He was number 8.
wow.
What was what's her name? I forgot that guy's name. Played for he was rapping too. I
been a
forgot his
couple.
name. Yeah, it's been a
He
few.
played for
Yeah.
who?
I forgot who he played for.
Was it Lou Williams?
Nah.
No.
Nah.
Was it Damian Lillard?
He
He-
I didn't even know he rapped.
Did he rap?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lonzo Ball.
Oh no,
Lonzo Ball, they rap?
I think Damian Lillard, I think he did.
Yeah. Baron Davis. Did he rap? No.
What's the one who they was married and they just broke up?
Iman.
Oh,
Iman Shumpert.
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was rapping.
Yeah, he was.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And he was pretty good too.
Was he?
Yeah. Cause he was married to what's her name?
I know. I'm looking right at her face.
Oh, Tiana Taylor.
Tiana.
Yes.
Taylor, yeah. And so, but yeah, he was really good. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, shout out.
Apparently, Ron. I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
not Ron Artest. Meta World Peace goes by.
Oh,
Yeah, he was he was
I
on.
remember that.
Yeah.
Mhm. I remember that. Yes.
No doubt.
Remember that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, was that the sizzle?
That was the sizzle.
Well, that was the sizzle, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your boy Charles Greg with the beautiful
Lauren Sizzle.
and the beautiful
Classy Lady
and
Sparkle.
the beautiful.
Lady Esther.
We ready for good news and bad news?
Yeah.
give it-
Yeah, let me give y'all some good things. I did these stories. Y'all gonna
Smiling.
get this.
I like
Give it to me early.
I
Come
know
on.
that's right.
All right. If you've used Cash App in the past 6 years, from either 2018 through 2024, you might be eligible for $2,500 as a part of the class action lawsuit. This settlement is related to security breaches on the app. The lawsuit filed in February, it claims that Cash App Investing and its owner named Block didn't do enough to address 2 data breaches, leaving app users vulnerable. The lawsuit also highlights that the breaches exposed sensitive information, including social security numbers. If your account was accessed without authorization, or you've experienced fraudulent transactions, you can file a claim. Now, you only have up until November 18th. The final payment will depend on how many people file claims, and you'll need documentation to support any of your out-of-pocket losses. Again, you can receive up to $2,500 on your claim. Just go to their website, the Cash App.
Hold on. So they'll tell you, like, how do you find out? You would just need.
No, if you've experienced somebody,
experienced,
if you've
okay, I
had
got
some
you.
fraudulent activity. Some people said that they're like they had money in their account and then
this was
somebody
going
took
in.
it out, or whatever that fraudulent experience is, you just go and you fill it out. That's why they're saying they need proof. Yeah,
Of course, they'll say that.
yeah,
No doubt.
yeah.
of course they need it. If I'm gonna pay out some money, you need to tell me why I'm paying you.
Well, it's already ruled that it was some suspicious activity, so
mean,
my stuff was breached.
Listen, you can.
I mean, it is what it is,
look,
right?
if you watch the show Suits, you can just take what is it, a screenshot?
Yeah.
Who gonna say it's wrong?
Yeah, how about
That's your receipt,
right.
like.
Right.
But integrity matters. Okay, so this next story is a Bluebell man who serves as a pastor of a church here in Philadelphia at the Met on North Broad Street has been convicted of sexual assaulting 3 children.
Oh, no.
My goodness gracious.
Including the rape of one. It took a Montgomery County jury just 2.5 hours to deliver their verdict about Mark Hatcher, 60-year-old pastor of Holy Ghost headquarters in North Philadelphia. He showed no emotion as he was found guilty on all 10 counts, including rape, statutory sexual assault, and indecent assault of a child. One accuser, now 22, testified about 3 inappropriate encounters at Hatcher's home when he was 6 years old and 7 years old, including a moment when Hatcher kissed him and touched him inappropriately. Another accuser shared that at age 15, Hatcher exposed himself and fondled her. And then the third accuser described being taken to an unoccupied home in Philadelphia and was raped by Hatcher when she was 13. Wow. Hatcher's lawyer, Robert Gamberg, argued that the accusations were unprovable and suggested they were fabricated by the accusers. However, the prosecutor, Carolyn Goldstein, countered, questioning why any adult would willingly relieve such traumatic events unless they were true, noting that Hatcher used his position of trust to prey on them. Hatcher remains free on bail. He's awaiting sentence and has been ordered to surrender his passport and then avoid any contact with minors.
Trash.
It's just
The fact that he was free on bail is bothering me.
yeah, they did. I mean, 2.5 hours. That's like no time. Juries don't
They already
usually
knew.
do
They
that
was like,
fast.
this
Yeah,
is-
and I guess their testimony was what made them make that decision. But it's just also when parents are allowing their children at that age, like the child went to a household where nobody else was at. But usually the parents have trust in these adults. Even if you think you can trust them, don't trust them around your children. It's just that you're not going to be hurting anybody's feelings. The person on the other side should encourage it. You know what I mean? Like, it should be encouraged. All right, this last story is a Los Angeles County jury convicted Freddie Trone, 42, on Wednesday of orchestrating the murder of rapper PNB Rock. So they did find who was responsible for the death of Philadelphia's PNB Rock, sending it was basically the 17-year-old son to carry out the killing. So Freddie Trone, who's 42, sent his 72-year-old son to carry out the killing of P&B. The crime took place in September of 2022 at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in South Los Angeles, where the teen shot and robbed P&B as he dined with the mother of his young daughter. Trone, the father, who was found guilty of murder, robbery, and conspiracy, testified in his defense, stating, "I had nothing to do with it." But the prosecution argued that he was deeply involved. Video evidence showed Trone near the restaurant just 30 minutes before the murder, which the prosecution claimed was no coincidence. Another man, Tremont Jones, was also convicted of robbery and conspiracy, but not murder. Trone's son is now 19 and is being held in the juvenile system, deemed incompetent to stand trial. They're saying that his mental competency proceedings are to take place on August 28th, 2024.
Wow.
So I feel like the family may have gotten a little bit of closure. Remember that word, a little bit, just to know that the justice system has at least involved themselves with the killing of P&B.
Yeah, that right there. I remember when it happened, and it was devastating, especially for, Philadelphia. And then, all the work that he was doing. You remember his first song, or I don't know if that was his very first song, but when he was talking about my city needs, what was the name of it? My city needs love or something. I can't remember, but he was like talking about, I'm tired of yellow tape. I'm tired of teddy bears. And, just to see this happen to him, it's still hard. It's difficult. So my prayers and heart goes out to the family.
And a lot of these killings, senseless killings, and sometimes, and I'm just going to specifically say celebrities, where I think it was, what was his name? Dolphin? What was the rapper
Young
name?
Dolph.
Yeah, Dolph. It's like they're senselessly killing because they're jealous. It's not even taking something from them. They're not even looking at them and humanizing them. This is somebody's father, somebody's child, somebody's brother. You know what I mean? It's just because you want what they got on swag or whoever they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just, and this is senseless deaths across the world, but specifically because you're seeing them on TV or you're seeing them, on social media, and you got that envy in your heart, and you're taking a life as if it doesn't even matter. Here it is, a 42-year-old man. He's probably sent his son out because he knows he's a juvenile, which they're holding him in juvenile system, and now deeming him incompetent to stand trial. Like, that's just what a 17-year-old. What did he use his son to kill this man for? Like, it's crazy. So,
yeah, or even worse, the young man that was involved in the killing of no, the other one, the one with the braids. He had the braids that came down. He was from New York. I can't think of his name. Why am I? That she liked the way that I dance. She liked the way that I move.
Yeah, Pop.
Yeah,
I was about to say
Pop.
I'm sure that's who you were talking about.
Yeah. Well, his killer was on the podcast talking about he didn't regret what he did, and it was for the family to hear that.
Wow.
It's just horrible.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a little 50 Cent. Cause
Yeah.
remind me of 50
Yeah.
Pop.
Oh.
Yeah, just the way you talk and look. Well, that was your good news and your bad news from your girl, Classy Lady Sparkle.
Wait, which one was good?
The Cashapp.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Cashapp
was
we gotta
good.
get better with the good news.
The Cashapp. The
So we
Cash.
still had another story.
Y'all
to
about
go.
to get $2,400. Just go file.
Who getting that?
I was about to say.
Go file.
Who getting that? Who getting that?
Go file. Go
All
file
I
and
heard
claim.
was,
Yeah, the Cashapp.
claim because you might have fraudulent activity. Somebody stole money out my account. None of that story sounds good, but all right. Okay, the good part was that you might be able to get some of it back. Okay, thanks,
Go ahead
Bart.
and file a claim, y'all.
No doubt.
Go to the Cashapp settlement website.
I was waiting for the next story.
We talk weeklies after the talk of WPPMLP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We talk weeklies after the talk with your boy Charles Gregory and the beautiful
Lauren Sizzle.
and a beautiful
Classy Lady
and a
Sparkle.
beautiful.
Lady has
Let
time.
me pull up my notes here because we had the opportunity to go to the Eggs, Grits, and Presidential Politics rally. It's a tongue twister right
Yes.
there. Pennsylvania State Senator Sharice Street passionately endorses Kamala Harris as the most qualified candidate for the presidency, held at Penn Memorial Baptist Church in Philadelphia. This event brought together community leaders, including Senator Vincent Hughes, Representative Morgan Cephas, and Councilmember Curtis Jones Jr. to galvanize support for Kamala Harris. Senator Street emphasized Kamala Harris' extensive experience for her role as district attorney in San Francisco to serving as Attorney General of California, a U.S. Senator, and now a Vice President of the United States. He highlights her commitment to keeping communities safe, fighting for women's rights, and pushing for gun control. Watching this inspiring speech, we got this. We was there. So I'm gonna play for you a little some. So I want you to watch this speech from Sharif Street. You can find the longer video on our channel. It'll be up maybe tonight or maybe tomorrow morning. But I did pull this clip, so I'm gonna pull this up right now so you guys can see it. So kudos to what we do here when we talk weekly, because we really be in them streets, right? And so let me pull this up real quick. Let me see if I can get it and make it bigger for y'all before I play this. And here we go.
Are you with her? I'm with her. I will tell you something. We need to vote for Kamala Harris because she is the most qualified person in this race. And yes, we want to make history, but there's some folks out there that are getting confused because they say we only want to elect her because she's going to be the first woman, because she's going to be the first black woman, the first Asian woman, the first South Asian woman. But the reality is she's the most qualified person, regardless of race, running for this seat. Kamala Harris, we talk about the issues that are affecting us. Can we keep our communities safe? Kamala Harris has been a district attorney in the city of San Francisco. She learned how to work with organized neighborhood groups like the Winfield Residents Association, people that know how it's on the ground to keep neighborhoods safe. Kamala Harris served as the Attorney General for the state of California. And I'm going to give one thing for each office she held. But as Attorney General for the state of California, she took on the opioid companies. Not no people with backpacks walking barefoot across the border. That ain't how the drugs got here. She worked with our governor, who was then Attorney General John Shapiro, and they took on the American billionaires that were making Oxycontins and Percocets and pumping into our communities and brought back billions of dollars to communities. That's what she did as Attorney General. As a U.S. Senator, she fought for a woman's right to choose. And she tried to making sure that all of our rights, including voting rights, were protected. And as the Vice President of the United States, she, along with President Biden, pushed forward some of the first gun control bills we've gotten through in over 30 years. Kamala Harris has done the job. And what did the other guy do? He took the great economy that Barack Obama put together. Let's be clear. When he took over, Barack Obama gave him a great economy, and he ran it into the ground. And then Joe Biden took a terrible economy with Kamala Harris and turned it around. So now it's time for us to stand up for her like she stood up for us. So we gonna vote, because when we vote, we're gonna vote for Kamala. God bless.
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So we were able to be in the place today, this earlier today, and so that footage will be out. The full video, you'll see it tomorrow, of everyone who actually were there and who spoke. But the house was pretty packed. Again, we can't endorse anyone here. We're not partisan. But what I will say is I like the idea of him giving the facts, right? And so if we're going to do anything, if you're going to vote for any particular party, any particular candidate, I won't tell you who to vote for, right? I won't wag my finger at you. I won't, make you scared. I won't do anything. What I am going to do is tell you that you need to be performing your civic duty, period. Point blank in the story. I don't care who you vote for. Just vote for who you believe best represents your beliefs. It's that simple, but you need to vote. You need to vote. You need to vote. And so, Sizzle, you got anything you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to, well, make sure that you are registered to vote, first and foremost. We do have a video up that talks about, shout out to Kadita Kenner, who sat down with us, and it talks about a plethora of voting information that's important to know before you head to the polls. So make sure you go to our YouTube and check that out. And I believe you can go to Vote PA to check and see if you're registered, but we will have the information up on our website, wetalkweekly.com. So you can also go there and just continue to keep up with what we're doing, because we're going to keep you guys informed of all that's going on in the political landscape and voting. So make sure you guys keep it locked.
There you go. There you go. Classy Lady S. Y'all want to talk a little bit about voting before we step out?
Just go vote. Like you said earlier, vote, exercise your rights. Don't assume. Please don't assume. Go pull that lever.
There you go.
Yeah, and try to vote on policies. Don't look at the person. It's almost like that show, The Voice, where you turn your back and you just hear them versus looking at them. Don't look at Trump. Don't look at Kamala. Look at the policies, not the person, and vote according to what's better for you and your family.
There you have it. A nice place to end right there. I'm your boy Charles Gregory, the beautiful.
Lauren Sizzle.
And the beautiful.
Classy Lady Sparkle.
And the beautiful.
Lady S.
And this is We Talk Weeklies After the Talk on WPPMLP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We Talk Weeklies After the Talk. Really appreciate you tuning in. Really appreciate you watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And make sure you tune in next week where we have some more dynamic interviews. And what we'll be doing is our new round of having a lot of these politicians, people who are talking civics, people who are talking politics, and who are in support of what's going on as it relates to this political race. And so what we want to do now is continue to educate the people who are watching our platform, who are subscribing, and following, because we appreciate you. So without further ado, we out here like last year, y'all. Deuces. Yep.
Peace.